What's up, YouTube? In this video, I want to change up the script a little bit and talk through some analysis on 4 games that I played a couple nights ago now. And actually, really, it was another 2 that I played last night. And all 6 of those games I lost. The first 4 from that one night all felt more or less unwinnable. There was one game that I think we could have won, and I'll kind of detail through that a little bit. But there are 4 or 5 factors that can lead towards your percentage chance of winning to just be lower. In no particular order, because I'll go in a slightly different order as I talk through these throughout the video here. Number 1 is tilt. Number 2 is comp. Number 3 is MMR. Number 4 is lag. And number 5 is missed plays. Those culmination of factors can, especially the 5th one, things can actually be going okay, but turn on a dime when a really key misplay occurs. And I want to say it here and also at the end of the video. The moral of all of this, what I've come to realize through it, is that you want to go into every game thinking, oh yeah, we can win. So I don't want you to be pessimistic. But in hindsight, your approach to the game, while yes, you can always improve and we always should be looking for ways to improve, it's important not to beat yourself up and say, well, I did the wrong thing here, and that's why we lost. That might have contributed towards your loss. The misplays that I made, some of the missed calls, you'll see a Baron play later that we analyze. And after looking at it a couple of times, I thought maybe we could have just backed. But, you know, in the moment, when it's essentially a coin flip, whether or not that play, prolongs the game towards you winning it or you lose, any single play shouldn't do that for you if the game up to that point has been played well. And if it just hasn't because of all the factors that are sometimes out of your control, then it just is what it is. So we'll get into it here. Hope you enjoy. Remember to leave a like and sub if you're interested in seeing more content. And comment and let me know what your thoughts are. How do you handle games that are like this? What are your thoughts on them? Do you agree with the analysis? Do you disagree? Would love to know your feedback. All right, enjoy. Oh, they saw me through. Oh, I feel robbed. So yeah, near miss. All right, so here's the second one coming up here. We should get Dragon. Crazy. Man. Another factor is tilting and the mental game. I don't want to put anyone on blast, so I'm not going to name who it was in this game. But anyway, there was one player who was playing well and got mad because the rest of the team was losing and not playing well, and in team fights in particular. And I understand that sentiment, especially coming from the fact that they were playing well. However, that's not an appropriate response. It's not okay to call your team out in that way, because it's not constructive criticism. It's not helpful. What is helpful is game planning. What is helpful is trying to strategize to find a way to win. But this person just decided it's over. We're done. I'm checked out. And they just continued talking the entire rest of the game from, I don't know how many minutes in we were, but it was a while. And all the while I'm trying to type back to them, hey, just don't worry about it. Focus up. Let's keep going. But they were checked out. They were done. And so ultimately, did that lose the game? I mean, yeah, it did. It contributed towards it. We had near misses. We had losing lanes in a couple cases. And we had a player tilting and causing the other players to tilt. Instead of focusing on our strengths on the team and how we could improve our chances to win, they just decided to be negative. That's second. That actually happened in 3 of the games, 3 of the 4, to varying degrees. I'll place the blame on this game for sure, and one other for sure on tilting. And there's just nothing you can do about that. Try and be a positive influence. It will help you win in some games. I have turned people's mental around. But just understand that there are just going to be games that you lose because someone else is having a bad day, doesn't want to play. decides that they're not having fun and they're just done. If I were a challenger level Eve, maybe I could carry it, but I'm not. I'm not going to play perfectly or make all the right calls. And when that happens, it's just going to result in a loss. And that's okay. Even if I played perfectly, I don't know, because of the factors that I mentioned, that this would be a one game. But my advice to everyone is try and be positive. I understand matchmaking. I understand that because there are Smurfs, that you can't really just pair gold with gold, plat with plat. Fundamentally, I get it. It just is what it is. Unfortunately, I think that can work against you at times, and just sometimes who you're matched up with, either with or against, is going to go in your favor sometimes and against you in others. To the point where some games are just going to feel, at least to me they do, unwinnable. This was one of those games. This was game number 2. So in game number 2, MMR-wise, the Kassadin was a plat 1. Everybody else on our team except for the Renekton was a gold. So plat, Renekton, everyone else was gold. And then on the other enemy's team, they had a plat 1 Kassadin, and they had 3 other plats and 1 gold. And they were really doing well. Now, our Aurelian tilted. I'll mention the Aurelian's name because I'm not going to show names best I can. I don't have him in screen here. He tilted. And instead of coming to Baron with us, I understand that maybe he's thinking, oh, I got to play base defense. I don't think so, though, because of how tilted he was. And I think he had just checked out. But notice, as this play progresses, just watch what he does in base. We don't need the defense there. I mean, really, we don't. We get the Baron, we can Baron recall. It's a bit of a gamble and a risk, I get it. Someone could march down and take our inhib, but we still have 2 Nexus turrets. Maybe there are super minions here, I'm not sure. But regardless, he really shouldn't be here. He should be with us. So check out the play. All they have to make. Gotta save my W for the Kassadin. Okay, so we get that. This Thresh taken care of. Okay, so again, he actually had ample time to come up and help. He ended up recalling in base for no reason, and he was just sitting there the entire time. So I want to be clear. You know, should the game have been decided on a play like this? No. However, had he been there, granted he's level 13, the Kassadin is level 17, I do think that we would have had a much more substantial chance. The Baron would have died faster. He would have, you know, given us more coverage, more DPS. He would have also maybe made it so that they didn't even come in and try anything. I don't know. He had his ult, you know, but he tilted. And it wasn't just this play, but it was everything that led up to this play. He didn't rotate over for grubs earlier in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Just a lot of little things happened. And again, I get it. He might just not have had his best game. And it wasn't, I don't remember him being like super toxic. So it was just, he was tilted. And I think in part because he was up against a plat 1 Kassadin, who really had his number throughout the game. And was just making everything pretty difficult. So again, that just kind of, it was a compounded issue, both, you know, tilted player plus, you know, bad matchmaking or just unfortunate matchmaking. Again, you play enough games, you're going to get the plat 1 on your team and you're going to crush, you know, it just is what it is. Champ select. Okay, so in this case here, I actually don't think this is a terrible draft, but if you look at their team, Jin's really strong right now, just in the current meta. Volibear is very strong. Kassadin is very strong, and we also know that he's the plat 1 Cass. Set is pretty strong, and then they have Thresh, and if Thresh hits any of his hooks, he's going to be a nightmare for us to deal with. So, we have a pretty decent team, all things considered, but Renekton will fall off early. And he, you know, that's assuming he gets even going. Milio, I do think he actually performed well late into the game, but I just don't consider Milio a very strong champion. And the output of the game seemed to confirm that. I mean, he has basically no damage. And granted, supports aren't supposed to damage all the time. But it just it feels to me like a weaker pick given the rest of our comp. In a team fight, I'm going to roam and do my thing. And I do feel like Evelyn is a good pick no matter what, but I will say this too. Granted, we had Aurelian on our team this time. Aurelian is a pretty strong counter to Eve. And so that played into effect in the first game where we were against an Aurelian, like you saw in that clip. There's just not a lot that I can do against an Aurelian. But point being, our draft, just by and large, was a worse draft than their draft. They have a really heavy all-in potential. Cassidans are, Volley Bears are, Sets are, Thresh and his hook and jump to you, plus his box, his flay, Jin's W and his traps. They have a very high CC, high all-in team. And yes, we have Milio with his Q. Maybe that's what he was thinking. But we just were never able to make anything happen. So this was one example of poor comp. This is another one. So in this game, we have Nefiri, Eve, Akali, Sivir, Leona. They have Panth, Nocturne, Shen, Kaisa, and Brand. And actually on paper, I thought we had the best chance in this game of all the games that I played last night. I thought we would be able to do well. But when you really break it down, we have 3 assassins. And the entire game we're hunting for picks. But the Brand basically stayed right next to Kaisa, as far as I can recall, the entire time. Shen ulted. Nocturne always had his ult, up, so darkness, right? And then Pantheon ulted in a lot. So they had so much mobility between these 3 champions to keep these 2 protected. I think Brand ended up doing more damage than anyone on our team, maybe except Akali. But this is another game where there was some frustration. It wasn't super bad, but it was enough to still not really be all that helpful. On our team, we had someone who kind of tilted a little bit. That didn't help. Our comp wasn't that great because, again, we had 3 assassins versus such a highly mobile team that was always playing around their squishy players. And we just could never make anything really happen. Akali and I popped off pretty well, but we just weren't able to close the game out. But this one did feel the most winnable, all things said. This game is what I consider the worst in terms of comp and our ability to draft. So Twitch and Lulu, I just don't consider Lulu a very strong support right now. So automatically, it's just going to be hard for a Nautilus Varus bottom lane. Twitch had to, pop off, use his Q, basically be an assassin. But again, here we've got 3 assassins. Zed, myself, and Twitch. Sometimes it's just a little bit too much. So Twitch tilted in this game. And so I would count our comp as one factor as why we lost. Twitch tilting was another. And then they just popped off and did really, really well. I don't remember what their matchmaking was, if that was, what I would consider a factor. But anyway, and then the Warwick popped off really well. And I spent my time not helping Twitch and Lulu because I saw them as a weaker lane to Nautilus Varus. I wanted to instead try and get Zed and Urgot going. So I spent most of my time top. I got some kills on Aatrox. Warwick got me a couple of times. I was able to contest for Grubs and contest for Drake, and sometimes successfully, sometimes not. The game just spiraled out of control, though, because Twitch, to his credit, from what he said, they got backed up to turret. I never really analyzed the game from his standpoint, but they were shoved in, and Nautilus and Varus had a field day. And then for the rest of the game, Varus never left Nautilus aside. I could never catch him out. He went like 16-0 or something crazy. But the Twitch just really, really tilted. He was very upset that I never ganked his lane, saying things like, imagine if you had ganked my lane and all of this stuff. And he could be right. Unfortunately, though, it goes back to tilting where we don't know what the other player is dealing with. I don't know that he was ever paying attention to the fact that I was trying to contest objectives and trying to work with our top laners, mid and top, who were rotating with me. Like the 3 of us were trying to play together. But our comp was just such that, they had Warwick and Cassidon and Aatrox. They were just slippery enough that we just couldn't make anything happen. So it was just one of those games. Again, how do you win that? And I would just argue that you're just going to lose some of these games. Okay, I found it. I'm going to show the Warwick play. So yeah, he played that perfectly. I could have ulted or flashed, chose not to because I wanted to try and save them. I thought that my charm would work. I think he queued through me as I charmed the other, or as I fired off my hate spike the other way. But just little things like that, you know, the enemy team making good plays, and I just couldn't make the play that I needed to make, ended up turning the tide. Now, by this point, I think we were pretty much lost anyway, but our comp difference was just so huge. Every little thing piled up to where our win rate, our win chance was just so low. So the last factor I will mention is lag. I think that a player in this game or the one right before it and our first game were lagging on our team. But lag can play a part too. Connection issues, people disconnecting. You know, I understand the percentages. It's a game of percentages. It's a game of inches in time at times. So yeah, in summary, again, remember, it's not that we should go into games pessimistically, but when you get on really bad losing streaks, and I'm on one right now, and it just feels so bad, just remember, don't beat yourself up. There's only so much you can do. It's a team game, and losing will not always be your fault, no matter what role you play. So do your best, try and improve your game every single game, but don't let a streak or 1 or 2 games crush your morale. All right, peace.